Oh my god.
Alrighty boys, welcome back to another video. Now in today's video I wanted to talk about the KV9. Now this weapon actually reminds me the most of the Famas from like the Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3 days, because the rate of fire is like really high, but the damage is also very high. Now this one, it does have a very low magazine size when you first get it. So what I'd highly recommend doing is as you're leveling it up, to just keep upgrading the magazine size, and it'll make it a lot easier, and you'll be able to make a lot more like mistakes during your gunfights, and you know what I mean, like it'll just be easier overall. It does have a little bit of kick, so it's not the best when it comes to like the long range gunfights. However, the big thing that I noticed is that typically for like mid range, you're usually okay if you can burst fire or tap fire from a distance. And like I said, as you upgrade the magazine, it'll become a lot easier on the mid-range gunfights. At the beginning, it's a little bit awkward because you only have 17 bullets, one in the chamber, that you can play around with for your gunfights. So you got to be more careful with the type of like positions you put yourself in. However, the one thing I noticed is that when you're in that close range environment, bro, you literally are like uncontestable. Like this weapon just straight up shreds people, and there's literally like nothing they can do about it besides having like a shotgun, for example. Now, probably the biggest problem that I noticed when I was using this weapon is while you may be really uncontestable in the close range, the biggest problem by far when you're using it is leveling it up to getting up to that 23 mag, that 27 mag. Once you're at that 23 mag, you're probably good to go for like killing like 1 to 2 people, you know what I mean? But the thing that I noticed the most is that if 2 people push me at the exact same time, most of the time I'm only gonna be able to kill 1, and then I'm gonna have to switch to my pistol to try to kill the next guy. And usually if that guy is full health, well, you're probably gonna be losing that unless they just like absolutely whiff. Now, I am a console player that turns on PC crossplay, so most of the time I am going to be losing that 2v1 engagement when it does happen. However, with good positioning, I do believe that you can make it into positions where you're just taking multiple 1v1 gunfights in the close range proximity, so then you're able to just absolutely shred and just literally nobody can contest you. Like, it's literally like the most unfair gun. Honestly, what I really wanted to title this video was if you're a COD player, this is like the perfect weapon for you, because I know a lot of the COD players tend to just run around and just, you know what I mean, like they just go crazy, you know, with the high rate of fire guns and just kill people super quick. So this gun, in my opinion, low-key might be the perfect fit for you if you do come from COD, because this is like literally like, if you like just being in the thick of it on the objective or whatever and you're just surrounded by enemies, this is the one for you. 100%, because you're just going to absolutely shred. And if you are like, you know what I mean, your first shooter or whatever, this could be a really good gun for you as well, because like I said, the recoil isn't that bad. So when it comes to like the mid to long range, as long as you tap fire, burst fire, like you're probably okay for the most part, as long as you're not like trying to snipe someone from across the map. Now, I'm not saying that you can't do that, but the problem is that I noticed was that the magazine size, what would happen is a lot of the times when you're taking these longer mid-range to long-range gunfights, people will tend to like get lit up to like 1 HP, for example. I had that happen to me a lot while I was using this weapon when I tried to take gunfights in the long range. So what I'd recommend for that is, like I said, just keep using the gun, get to that 23 mag, that 27 mag, and then once you're there, it should become a lot easier. There was definitely a lot of moments when I was using this weapon for like mid to long range gunfights where I was like, man, if I only had like 4 extra bullets more, I could have killed the second guy. If I only had like 4 or 8 extra bullets, I could have killed the second and third guy. You know what I mean? It's just like one of those weapons where it's like if you got it up to the 27 mag and the 23 mag, it just changes the whole thing, because then all of a sudden like you're now able to burn, or instead of tap firing for your mid range, all of a sudden you're full autoing for your mid range for these like 10 to 15 meter areas, or excuse me, I want to say like 15 to 30 meter areas. Like this type of gunfight, for example, if I had more bullets, I could have easily killed that guy, but instead I was using the 18 round magazine, so it was a lot harder to get those kills in particular when they're just slightly out of your range. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible, however, a lot of the time that people have cover and that type of thing, and or they're using head glitches, or they have some type of cover between you and them, it becomes a lot more difficult to finish them in the very small magazine that you start with. So I'd highly recommend to upgrade it as soon as possible and get to that 23 mag. The 23 mag is good. The 27 mag is even better. So I'd highly recommend to get to that point as soon as possible. Now, what I expect to see happen is that this is going to be like the meta for the maps where it's very close quarters. Like Empire State, I think, is going to be, this weapon is going to be kind of a meta weapon. Sandstorm for this B objective, I think it's going to be like the most ideal weapon in my opinion. Combo it with the shotgun on assault and you're probably in like really good shape. But keep in mind, when you have the shotgun, you get that reduced ammo, so keep that in mind. But I do think that if you paired it with the shotgun, then all of a sudden when you get in those weird hairy positions where you kill one person super easily and then his squad mate comes around the corner, then you'll have time to pull out your shotgun instead of a pistol and have potential of one-tapping them in the close range environment, which I feel like is going to be really helpful when you're just starting out with this weapon and you're not able to kill the second person right away because you run out of bullets. So that's what I would recommend personally. The one thing I do want to mention is that I know there's a really big debate right now with like the closed or open weapons. Honestly, I don't really care that much whether it's closed or not closed when it comes to the weapons personally. I just like playing the game in general, so I'm not gonna try like think too hard about like which one is better or which one's not. Typically I will play in the open weapons playlist because it just doesn't really matter that much to me personally. So that's why I would recommend to not worry about like the class like hip. I know with the engineer you get like better hip fire with your SMGs, which I think can be good, but typically on this weapon the ADS time is very high, and it's not like most of your gunfights you're gonna be able to pull up your ADS like almost instantaneously. So I noticed what would happen when I got caught off guard, that I would actually be able to just ADS mid gunfight to kill whoever I'm going against. However, in this game, typically the hipfire is pretty strong already on most guns without even like, you know what I mean, having that class upgrade with SMG. So I'd highly recommend to not really worry too much about like, oh, I need to be on the engineer role to be using an SMG. Like, I do think the closed weapon argument is like a good debate. However, personally myself, I don't really see myself, you know what I mean, going crazy about, oh, you shouldn't be able to use an SMG on assault, or you shouldn't be able to use an SMG on support. Like, I don't really care that much, honestly. I just want to play the game and have a good time, you know what I mean? And I feel like this is a great weapon for that, because then you can pop it onto any of your favorite classes like assault, recon, whatever, support, and you're gonna be fine, because it's just one of those weapons that's just really strong in that close quarters. So I'd highly recommend giving it a try. Now once again guys, I wanted to quickly say, like, I do think this is gonna be like a meta weapon for like a close quarters engagements. On certain maps is just gonna be like the best thing to run. However, I do think that you don't have to worry super hard about like what's the best weapon in the game or anything like that, because that's not really what Battlefield is about, because obviously there's no like ranked game mode right now where you need to be running like a certain weapon or anything like that. However, I do know there are people that do enjoy that type of thing, where they want to know what the strongest weapon is in the close range. Now, I believe that this weapon is going to be the strongest weapon for the close range, and the reason why I say that is because, once again, it has that 25 damage, 1080 fire rate, and the other thing that I wanted to bring up is that you can also add hollow points to this weapon as well. So what the hollow points are is basically other ammunition that you add on to the gun after you level it up a little bit, and it gives you an increased headshot multiplier, which means that with a high rate of fire gun, if you're hitting the head, what's going to end up happening is you're going to absolutely shred through people. The big thing that I was noticing happen a lot is that if I did get headshots on people, and I don't think I have like amazing aim or anything like that, but when I did get headshots on people, like, they literally could not even react. It was that powerful that people literally were not able to even react to me, because they just simply didn't have enough time to react, you know what I mean? It's just that type of weapon. Now, The other thing that I wanted to quickly bring up, though, is that even without hitting those headshots, you're still going to be killing people extremely quickly. And like I said, the only weapon that I could see even being like a contestable weapon for the close range for this weapon is going to actually be the shotguns. And the reason why I say that once again is that, as you guys just saw in that clip in the background right there, that guy was basically pre-firing me around that corner, but I basically just shot in his direction as I saw him and still was able to win that gunfight. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those weapons, you know? Like, even if you get caught off guard, you still have a very high chance of winning the gunfight outright because of that rate of fire. That rate of fire alone with the headshot modifier is just absolutely insane. Now, another thing I actually wanted to bring up was actually for sensitivity for this game. Now, like I said, guys, the recoil in this game isn't that insane, so I wouldn't worry too much about like the best attachments or anything like that. You mostly want to focus on your sensitivity and finding what you're comfortable with. Typically, when you have a higher sense, you're gonna have more pull when it comes to the recoil, because you're able to obviously pull down harder. When you're on a higher sensitivity, it'll be a lot more easier to do that, to be able to control like overall recoil on most weapons. Now, the main thing that I want you guys to focus on when you are doing your attachments is mostly, like I said earlier, is you want to focus on like the magazine size. So for this weapon, again, you want to try to go from the 17 mag to the 23 mag and the 27 mag at the end, and that's going to be like probably the meta like way of running the gun, because then you're able to take more gunfights more consistently, and you'll be able to win more group gunfights without actually having to, you know what I mean, have to reload the gun in the first place, because like I said, the recoil isn't that crazy in the first place. And the other thing too is that once you do find a sensitivity that you're comfortable with, it'll be a lot more valuable than actually finding like the best attachments for whatever weapon that you are trying to go for. And the other things that are also really important to mention as well is that you should really focus on your positioning and how you take objectives and how you're positioning yourself for engagements with multiple players, because that's going to be way more important than having like a higher magazine. Like, obviously you don't want to run into a gunfight where you're fighting 4 people at the same time. So you want to focus more on your positioning, so that way you're taking multiple gunfights in a row where it's just one person at a time or 2 people at a time. Like I said, if you have that extended magazine, you're going to be able to take more gunfights back to back. So that's why I'd recommend to level it up as soon as possible for the 17, or excuse me, for the 23 and the 27 magazine size, because it does make it a lot easier to take those group gunfights. Now I want to quickly talk about the mid to long range gunfights once again. Now for mid to long range gunfights, I do think it's going to be in your best interest, at least when you're leveling up this weapon at the beginning, to focus on your tap firing, focus on your burst firing for those longer range gunfights. And the other thing too is something that I noticed myself doing, and this is just something that I do by habit, is that if I do catch somebody on like a more mid-range gunfight, something that I do unconsciously right now is that I will tend to run closer to them if they haven't spotted me yet, so that way I don't have to worry so much about having to burst fire as much for the gunfight, and I can just take the gunfight more outright. You know what I mean? Because like I said, in the close range, this weapon is uncontestable. Like, literally no other gun in the game is winning a gunfight against you in the close range, other than like a shotgun, obviously, because the shotgun has a potential of the one shot for the very close range gunfights. So keep that in mind. Since you have such a high fire rate, and with the hollow point rounds, you basically outpace pretty much every other weapon in the game. Again, guys, I don't want to focus too much on like meta weapons or anything like that, but I do know some people do care about that type of thing. So that's why I wanted to show you guys what I believe to be the strongest, because like I said, on the fire rate department and the hollow points, like, it's just like having that extra damage in the close range. You're just shredding people just outright. So that's why I believe that this is going to be probably the strongest weapon for that. If you guys want to see a settings video in the future, please let me know down in the comments, because I'd be happy to make one. I just don't know if you guys would want to even care about that in the first place. So let me know down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.